Good evening. I'm Sarah Sells, and Peg Lazio and I are co-presidents of the League this year. I want to welcome all of you that are here tonight. Some may be wondering why we are going to be having two forums. We are having a primary election because there are 5 candidates. At the time of the election, that has to be narrowed down to 4. So tonight, we are listening to the candidates to help you decide which ones you think would be good leaders for the city. I want to thank the public for being willing to be here to offer questions, and I want to thank the candidates for being willing to serve the city. It is no small task that you are possibly taking on. I also want to thank Ed Wilson for the filming of this. All of the candidates are here with us tonight, except for Marcia McDaniel. They all were invited, and she respectfully declined. The League, a little bit about the League. The League of Women Voters was founded in 1920, which was the year the women had the opportunity to vote. They were founded to educate the new voters. One of the still principal aspects of the League is still to educate voters. That's what we hope we are doing tonight. Our moderator is Jean Dell, and she is now going to go over with you the rules of the forum and introduce the candidates.
Thank you, Sarah. I will be the moderator this evening. You know, these guys will fight if we don't make them behave. I would ask everybody in the audience and the candidates to silence your cell phones. First thing I'd like to do is introduce the members of the League who make this forum happen. I believe Kathy Courtney and Mary Gaskell and Terry Reed are here this evening. So is Christine Moore. I think Christine's out in the hall. The member who will be reading the questions tonight is Caroline Perron. And our timer will be Lori Keelkoff. Lori has a sign. She'll show the candidates so that we can ensure that each of them receives equal time to answer the questions. Many of you have already filled out cards, so you know that all questions must be submitted in writing and you must sign them. We have accepted some questions through our Facebook page. They obviously were signed, and they will be incorporated with those questions. I'm going to review, we just reviewed with the candidates, we will review with the rest of you the rules we will all be living by. The candidates are seated in alphabetical order. They will answer questions in rotation so that one candidate is not always first nor always last. Each candidate will make a 2-minute opening statement. They will each have 1.5 minutes to answer each question. They may, of course, decline to answer if they choose. And each candidate will have 1 minute to make a closing statement. The first question that will be asked will be from the League, and that will be after the opening statements. So the candidates who are wanting to be a part of the City Council are Cyan Bosu, Keith Cavanis, Joe Damerville, and Bill Hoffman, as well as Marcia McDaniel. All of those names will be on your ballot October 10th. So we will begin alphabetically with Ms. Bosu.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for spending your night with us and working towards becoming involved and informed voters. I truly appreciate your time. I'm Cyan Bosu. I'm an Ottumwa native. I'm a small business owner. I'm an educator with the Ottumwa Community School District. And I pride myself on already being a very active community leader. I've worked in areas spanning from housing to the arts and many different things in between. As an employer, I recognize some of the struggles that we're facing with finding and retaining certified staff. I've worked firsthand with homeowners with the progress with our housing reform. I also believe I have a good background working with the city already on this issue, and that I have experience that will provide some vital insight. As an educator, I'm committed to learning, and I believe that's an integral aspect to being a council member, is your commitment to learning as our community continues to grow, and learning how to be the best fiscal fiduciary and policymaker possible for our community. My run for office also revolves around the idea that as our community grows and becomes diverse, our council should be representative of that. I am a qualified woman that's devoted to giving everyone a voice and empowering everybody and helping Ottumwa reach prosperity and economic growth, and looking at our infrastructure improvements and housing, and learning how to lean into our diversity and being able to collaborate with everybody who lives in Ottumwa. I'm running because I believe I have valuable experiences. I have passion, I'm educated, I'm committed, and I want to make Ottumwa a better place for everyone. So again, just thank you for your time. I look forward to your questions tonight, and to speaking to you afterwards.
Thank you. Mr. Cavanis?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks to the League for hosting this forum this evening. I'm Keith Cavanis. I'm candidate for City Council. Having previously served 2 4-year terms in the City Council, I am familiar with the inner workings of the government and can step in ready to work day one. I am proud to have been a member of the City Council when good things were accomplished. Things such as replacing old, outdated stoplights and require a lot of expense and maintenance, which they were very not cost effective. And we replaced them with stop signs at various intersections, freeing up much needed human and financial resources. While it took about 10 years to become the viable and beautiful venue it is now, getting Bridgeview underway, completed, and operating was a vision to give Ottumwa a great place to gather, and is attracting more and more great talent as time goes on. Helping establish Walmart, Menards, and the strip mall area by getting water and sewage services to that service in exchange for annexing them into the city added significantly to the city's tax base by several $1 million.
Keith, can you get closer to your microphone? Some people are having difficulty hearing.
I'll snuggle it. How's that?
That's good. That's good.
Helping installing security cameras and monitoring by police improves public safety, as well as expanding and marketing Beach Ottumwa. I am currently a member of the Waterworks Board, where we are created partnership with the city to coordinate work on streets to avoid duplicate construction. Thank you all for being here this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Damerville?
Thank you. Everybody, thank you for coming and attending this. I wish more people in our community would attend city council meetings and all other public events that are available to go to. My background, I born and raised in Ottumwa, graduated from Ottumwa High School. I've worked many jobs. Well, not many jobs, I shouldn't say that, but started working at Excel back when it was Excel about 27 years ago. And then I moved on to Golden Eagle Distributing that was here in Ottumwa, Iowa for many years until they moved to Mount Pleasant. I worked with them for 20 years. I went from being a bottom level employee to running the sales and marketing team over in Mount Pleasant. And then I made the decision to become a small business owner about 7 years ago and purchased the Quick Shop over on Madison Street. And I own 2 businesses here in town with the Mad Zen that is connected to it. And with my business background and working with many businesses all over Southern Iowa, having many communications with a lot of businesses and owners, I just feel that I can bring some knowledge of the area that I've seen in other towns and other cities. And not really good at this. I didn't really prepare anything, but I just want to help better the community, you know, and as a city council member, we need to better the community as the whole community and make it better for everybody. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Mr. Hoffman?
Well, I want to thank the League of Women Voters. I want to thank them for putting on such a fantastic forum, and I want to thank everybody who's here for coming and everybody who's watching, taking the time to look at all of us and form an opinion. My name is Bill Hoffman Jr. I was born and raised in Ottumwa, proudly born and raised in Ottumwa. I see some familiar faces here. I know a lot of Ottumwa. I've served you at Walmart I've worked at Walmart for 28 years. I'm now currently happily employed in Indian Hills as a safety and security officer. My wife is the manager at Drugtown, and I have 2 kids who go to school in the public school system. I am also a member of the board of directors on the Ottumwa Water Works with Keith. I've also been responsible for some of the things we've done downtown and some of the things we've done in town. I don't know if you're all familiar, Ottumwa's video game capital of the world. I'm a member of that community on the board of the International Video Game Hall of Fame board. And we've done different things with different charities, many different charities. I've also done many different things in the community through them. You know, the reason I'm running for council, you know, I'm a parent, I'm a homeowner, I'm a workforce. I'm in the workforce in Ottumwa. I want what every other Ottumwan wants. I want a nice, safe, happy place to live. That's what I want to do. And I want to help be on or create a team that progresses Ottumwa further, yet recreates the back in the day feelings we all have, we all miss. I mean, I think we all remember going downtown, things open till 9, downtown full, the city full, the things that went on in the city. I have what I bring to the table, not only with financial knowledge from being an asset protection manager at Walmart, being on the board of directors of the Waterworks and dealing with finances my whole career, I bring a passion. I bring a passion for Ottumwa and a passion for the people. And for all of you who know me, I'm not blowing smoke. I love this town. I've always come to its defense. I love the citizens here. I absolutely love it here. And I'm glad I raised my family here, and I wouldn't change a thing. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for coming. I know I rambled a little bit, but when I get passionate.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. The first question will be read by Caroline Perron, and it will come from the League.
Okay, this is the League question, but actually several other people asked a similar question as the League question. So about 4 people have asked this question. So our League question is, what do you think is the most pressing matter facing the city? And I'll also let you know, several other people asked what were the 3 or 4 most pressing matters. So you can give us one or several.
Okay, we will begin with Mr. Cavanis.
Thank you. I think one of the most important things in our community is safety. We need for our fire department and our police department and first responders to be adequately equipped and ready to handle whatever we have in our community. Secondarily, I think finances are very important. Our council needs to know how much money we have and where it's at and what our budget looks like. I do not believe that you can actually run a business and not know how much money you got in the bank and how much you can spend. Those things are very, very important. Secondarily, I think we need to be concerned about all of our businesses, help them as much as we can, as often as we can, and do whatever is possible. Be careful to listen to what's being said and try to come up with solutions. Thank you.
Mr. Damerville?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question because from watching quite a few city council meetings and all that, First of all, I think, and I hear it a lot when I talk to people that come into my store and everything, streets and infrastructure is a big deal in this town. A lot of people complain about it, but on the other hand, when you look at the streets and infrastructure, you can't really say anything about what is going on because a lot of streets have been repaired, but there's also a budget to deal with. And if we have the money, then we can do it. We have a child care desert here in town where there's not very much child care for people that have jobs. So pretty much there's only first shift childcare. We need a second shift and a third shift childcare. I have employees that have problems getting childcare for their kids. And if we want to bring more jobs into this town and say factory jobs or something like that, we need the childcare. So they coincide with each other to where we need both. And I think that's about it.
Okay. Mr. Hoffman?
Oh, yeah. When I was thinking about this, there are many things that are pressing to people. It depends on who you talk to. The three things that stand out in my mind right now are safety and risk, quality of life, and the life of our small businesses. These are really the three things that are important to people. I went out and I've talked to people. Safety and risk, the reason I think that's important to me is we have approximately 42 police officers, and we have a fire department that's down about 25%. I don't know if anyone realizes the reason this sticks out to me is, number one, let me preface this with, when you talk to community members, their most important thing is safety and risk. They want to feel safe in their homes. They want to know somebody's coming when they need them. We have a fantastic police department and a fantastic fire department. However, sometimes I think we're killing them off with all the overtime and all the hours they work. Just to give you a couple of figures, in 2022, the police department ran 33,000 calls with 42 people. The fire department, being down on theirs, in 2021, they ran 4,045 calls, of 3,175 of those being EMS calls. Now, we all know that the hospital, we do want to help the hospital. The hospital's great. However, our fire department does take up some of the stress of that. Some of the firemen that are taking overtime to help protect us, remember, they didn't choose that career to be rich. They chose that career to be a passion. They work also at the hospital, which is also short-staffed. So that is community-minded. So, when it comes to mind, when I talk to people, when people want to visit here, I actually went to some small towns and I asked people, when you want to visit Ottumwa, they want to feel safe. They want to know they can come. They want to know they can give us their tourism business, and they want to know they're safe here. Like I said, our departments are doing a fantastic job. I just think we need to help them out doing it, not begging for equipment they should already have, and fully staffed. The town has grown. Our departments haven't.
Thank you. Ms. Bosu?
While I certainly agree with a lot of the other concerns that have been spoken on already, another thing that I would like to add to the table is our marketability as a community, and how we're reaching out to some of those new businesses and keeping those businesses here, which leads into our employment issue and how we're going to train staffed community members that we have now, and how we're going to create more employees and bring them and retain them into our city. I think housing is also a big focus. Our population continues to grow. And I think not only should we continue our investment in new housing units to meet that growing population, but to also invest in the community members that still live here and choose to live here, and help them to get those resources that they need. And as our community begins to grow, especially more diversely, I think it's important, as city leadership, as leadership at all, that we extend a hand to those people, because they're growing our community. They're a part of our community, and they deserve to have a voice as well. They own small businesses in our community. They're employers in our community. And I think that collaboration key is something that we can really strive to work towards.
Okay, next question. We had two questions regarding economic development. So both Patty Hanna and Dennis Wilhoit asked about development. So Patty asked about plans for building up Ottumwa since we've lost a lot of businesses. And Dennis also asked, what is your understanding of the city's current economic development pursuits, specifically focused on small business and recruitment of labor?
Okay, we will begin with Mr. Damerville.
Businesses, I see a lot of great stuff going on with the city. We've have TJ Maxx coming in town and some other businesses. That's great. I mean, that's what we need. When it comes to small businesses, like my own small business, the biggest problem is that with business, for one thing, money is short with a lot of people. I see that every day. I can kind of calculate that with my lottery sales on how much extra money people have, because if they don't have the money, they're not spending that extra money. And then they don't have the extra money, and then we need to bring in more businesses. Can't even think. I have so much stuff going on up here. But it comes down to, do we have the people to work those businesses? Everybody has help wanted signs up, okay? It's hard. I keep mine up all the time. I used to not keep it up all the time. But the biggest problem is finding the people that want to work with those businesses, and everybody else is shopping online, and that hurts business in your own community.
Mr. Hoffman.
Well, actually, I did 28, with my experience at Walmart, what I found is even working at Walmart, small business is the backbone of a town. Small business is the backbone of any town, as it should be. Now, I'm not knocking chain stores. We all like big box stores. We all like chain stores. However, to support small business in a town this size is extremely important. I think we need to engage the community more and get more communication out about what small businesses we have. I had also had some plans maybe through work studies and through other things, we could get interns and people training in these small businesses, and there's programs out there that can help get them some people who are training, and we can use these small businesses to train our next people for the workforce. Although, and understand that if you want to support a small business, I have a passion for that. It's nice to go to a chain restaurant. However, it's also nice to go to Warehouse Barbecue. It's also nice to go to Bubbacues and spend your money with somebody local who's been here. If each Ottumwan just bought one or two extra things from a small business who's selling things, that would be dramatic. And not only that, remember, when you think about buying stuff online and you thinking about buying stuff at a big box store, remember the service. Remember our fellow citizens are the ones that are helping us. We're supporting them so they can support us. It's a team. It's a great circle. So you're not going to get that level of service from the internet. You're not going to get that level of service from a big box store. I cried the day O'Hara's closed. Top-notch customer service. You could go in there and ask for the oddest part, and somebody would help you and somebody would get it. And that reflects all of our small businesses. And I believe to be a good elected official, we should be good supporters of those small businesses, buying things there, making sure we're going down and they have what they need. So thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Bosu?
I think part of economic growth is playing into, training our workers here. I own a local small business. I own a nail salon. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is that the beauty industry is an apprenticeship, certificate-based industry. The span of jobs that we can train people for is amazing. There are many different avenues and many different areas that we need to grow in our community. And I think if we invest in organizations already working towards training the workforces that we have here, and working with our community school districts, they are already working towards apprenticeship-based learning. I think it's also important to look at those incentives that do get businesses here, because yes, investing in small businesses is very important. I appreciate your support as a small business owner, but I also understand the importance of bringing in many varied kinds of businesses to our community and working on that marketability piece as we look to bring in other workers. And then also looking at the use of grants to expand the amount of money that we have available to us, and also the proper use of bonds. We just don't have enough pockets of money to continue to invest back into our community. And we need to look at how we can, responsibly find other avenues of money to put directly back into our community and invest in those things.
Mr. Cavanis?
I would like for you to reread that question. I think there was more than one part to it.
Yes, there were two parts. And basically, what type of economic development, in particular concerning small business, would you pursue? And also, how would you generate greater workforce?
I think workforce is probably adequate here in Ottumwa if we can just get them to go to work. Too many people are getting paid too much to stay home. And we need to have people that are willing to go to work and work a 40-hour week or a 60-hour week, whatever it takes to provide good help to the businesses that need help. Economic development in Ottumwa has never been a small issue, has always been a challenge. I hear lots of people tell me, well, we want some big businesses. We want another Morels, or we want another John Deere, or whatever. And that's almost off the table. We simply can't get there. So we do have to depend upon smaller businesses, provide a place for them to be, provide whatever services the city can provide to them to help them build their business. The other thing that's important, I think, is that they have to have a place to live. And Ottumwa is very short on housing, and it is very difficult to build new homes in this time right now because interest rates are high, building costs are high, and according to the people that I talk to, you'd have to sell a house for at least 40% more than it's worth for them to make a profit for having built it and sold and selling it. So I think it's important that we give them a place to live. Our community is deprived by older homes, and it is difficult sometimes for people to find a place to live here, so they've got to move out Oskaloosa, Pella, or someplace else. So we need to work on that program. Small business is very important. We need to support them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we've had several questions regarding finances and budget. So two people, Katie Howard and Stephen Croft, asked about your background in finance and asked you to explain how you would be a good steward of our money. And then we also had a question about how you would set priorities for the budget and give updates. So how are you going to be a good steward of our money, and are you going to set priorities and give us updates?
You may begin, Mr. Hoffman.
Well, fiscal responsibility should come with the job. We should be trusted to prioritize. I'll go over my personal experience. My personal experience with 28 years with Walmart, I was an asset protection manager, which means I did many investigations. I set up budgets. I made plans to stick to those budgets, and I had tons of experience trimming a budget or adjusting a budget on the fly, which sometimes that needs to happen. How I prioritize is I have to look at the importance of everything on the list. Now, different things are going to be important at different times. So you have to be able to make changes on the fly. With my experience, I've done investigations. I've created budgets. I've taught people how to create budgets. I know when you look at Walmart, but believe me, they're the master of making a budget and sticking to the budget. And trying to give people goods is at the best possible price. However, now I would like to back up a little bit when I said because small business keeps coming in my mind. Remember, those big box stores can be a tool for the small businesses too, and I can explain that to anybody that wants to ask afterwards. However, with the board of directors of the waterworks, different budgets for different committees I've been responsible for many budgets and investigations that included investigations of missing thousands of dollars, and creating budgets for training, payroll, cost of goods in the door. I mean, it was a daily function for me. So thank you.
Ms. Bosu?
As a small business owner, I understand the importance of sticking to a budget and, constantly going back to that budget and looking at where we stand and where we're at. I will say, I think Atoma's budget's already pretty tight. I think we've, invested funds in ways that, one, that we have to, and, we have begun to prioritize different things. I think, personally, we should keep investing in our safety, in our police force, and our fire department. We need to continue to put more initiatives towards our housing and rebuilding some of our, smaller neighborhoods. And hopefully, as we continue to do that, we can find ways to be more transparent and more understandable to the community. One thing I find as an educator is transparency is not the same as being understandable, and finding ways that we can truly communicate with community members and find ways that they can work with us in return. And also learning how to grow and become a better, a better financial advisor and trustee to our community as we continue to see new changes and new growth in our community.
Mr. Cavanis?
Well, I think that it's very important that we look at our finances, look at them very hard, because if you don't know how much money you've got, you have a hard time building a budget. It's important, I think, to have a zero-based budget, which means you start at the bottom and work your way up to the top. Some things maybe have to adjust it. Some others may not be adjustable, but no matter what, you have to review all of your budget. I think it's very important that we work on a plan. I have a copy of the city's 20-year comprehensive plan in front of me. And that should be reviewed every year by the council, and invite the public to come in and hear and talk about what's going on in our plan. I think we have to always be concerned about streets. Lord help us. Everybody wants their street redone. And it's important that we keep on top of that. But in the interim, we need to send people out to do patching and take care of the big craters that live in our streets, and try to help people, let them see that we're working towards that end. The most important thing that we need to do is let them know we're working on their project. We need their information. We want to listen to what they have to say. And then the budget is developed by your council. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Damerville?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, so how are you going to be a good steward of the budget, and how are you going to set priorities? So what would your priorities be?
In my background, working for Golden Eagle for the last 20 years, when I was with Golden Eagle, I was part of a 3-man supervisor team where we were giving a quarterly budget every quarter, and we were given a dollar amount that we could spend with, and then we were told that you can't go over that budget. So I've dealt with budgets for a long time, and then being a small business owner, I deal with budgets every week. I'm a small business owner. My pockets are not that deep, so I have to watch the bottom line and see how much money I have in the bank and how much money I can spend. Budgeting is very important to me. I do a liquor order every week with the state of Iowa to see how much liquor I need for my store. And I have to go through it and sit there and cut things that, okay, we can wait a week, or we can wait 2 weeks down the road to get it. and then I make my liquor order and send it off. I was raised to where your needs are more important than your wants. And that needs to happen at the city level too. I was told that you need to pay your bills first, you need to put food on the table first, and then you can have fun. If you don't have no money left over, then you don't need to have any fun.
Okay.
Next one.
Carolyn.
Okay. So we had two questions regarding the celebrations in Ottumwa. So would you support the celebrations that we have, such as Juneteenth, the gay pride celebrations, and international festivals?
Okay. Ms. Bosu, you will begin.
I think it's important that we are inclusive to all people in our community. I didn't mention this before in my opening, but I am actually the chairperson for the Ottumwa Juneteenth celebration. So I wholeheartedly believe in celebrating all kinds of people in our community. We have participated in and volunteered at many events in our community, including international events. My family is a family of immigrants, and I believe it's important that we recognize them in our community and we give them a space to share their culture with the people who have been living in Ottumwa for generations, because those are the families who are going to live in Ottumwa for generations to come. And if we choose to not welcome other people to our community, how can we market ourselves for growth? How can we be, tell businesses that they should come here if we're constantly pushing people away? And welcoming people and celebrating with them is an important part of growing our community and creating a sense of togetherness. So even as an educator, it would be troubling for me to tell you as an educator and as a leader that I do not want to celebrate and recognize all people in my community, because that's not fair. This position is here to represent all kinds of people, whether we agree or disagree.
Thank you. Mr. Cavanis?
I think I would support all types of occasions going on in Ottumwa. We have the Rotary Barbecue. We have all kinds of parades. We have high school parades. We have a football parade. We have a college parade. We have everything going on. Everybody wants to have support from the city council and the city and the citizens. I think there's no question but what that's something we should all address without reservation and support all those organizations. Thank you.
Mr. Damerville?
I've always, my background with being in business with Golden Eagle and with my business, I've always supported every event out there. I usually try to attend every event, but with a busy life, sometimes it's not possible. Just this past weekend, I went down to Keosauqua and attended one of their events down there because my business goes down into Keosauqua and everything. We should support every person, every type of person, everything in our community. And it's a very important thing, because when you're a city council member, you're working for the community as a whole. You're not just supporting one side or another side, you're supporting the whole community. And everybody needs to come together. I mean, we're so divided in our country right now that we just all need to come together, and I get so tired of the hatred with some people out there and everything. And I just wish people would get away from being divided and come together. So yeah, support every event. I went to the high school 100-year celebration, and we went down to where all the vendors were. And I was kind of disappointed on how many people did not show up for that. I was really disappointed because, I mean, it was 100-year celebration. It's very important to this community. So I just support everything. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Hoffman?
Well, I'm going to answer this question as a citizen first and a candidate second. Absolutely, we should celebrate everybody in Ottumwa. You know, one of the treasures of Ottumwa is the diverse community we're building. We have a culture where in Ottumwa where we're beginning to learn from each other. I think we're lucky to have what we have with the people we have and the people that are coming to build this great community. I mean, the community is only going to grow. So I absolutely believe that we should celebrate all people, all organizations, and support them. They're Atumwans. They're one of us, and we need to take care of each other. We need to show everyone that, hey, Atumwa, we love our citizens. We're strong. We have a passion for each other, and we have a passion for this town. So, you know what? I'm not even going to take my whole time. In short, I say absolutely, all groups should be celebrated. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question is from Senator Westrich. She asks, how can we address water quality in our community?
Mr. Cavaness, you will begin.
She trailed off on her comment. Can you repeat that one more time?
How can we address water quality in our community?
Thank you. Well, since I serve on the Waterworks Board, that's paramount with us at the Waterworks, but also at the city. And we are continually upgrading our ability to provide good, clean, palatable water. But most people don't know that we also have to provide several million gallons of water a day to cover any fires we may have. Every extinguisher we have in the city has to have water. And we also have to provide water to other places like JBS and other businesses that require water. So water quality, we believe we're one of the top ranked cities in the state for water quality. And we are continually being managed, if you will, by the DOT, or not the DOT, the DNR. They're coming down to check to make sure we're doing everything correctly. And we do. And most people think we have a pretty good quality of water in our community. Thank you.
Mr. Damerville?
I'm not very knowledgeable in this area because I think our water is fine. I hope we don't ever have to go through anything like they went through in Mississippi or Flint, Michigan with their water quality, where those things, I don't think we've had a, a boil order in Ottumwa for a long time. I can't even remember the last one. And like I said, I'm not very knowledgeable about that. It would be something that I would have to learn if I was elected to city council. And yeah, I mean, I think our water's fine here in Ottumwa. I've not heard anything about it being bad water, so.
Mr. Hoffman?
Well, like he said, him and I do serve on the board of directors of the Waterworks, and you know, water quality is of the utmost importance at every board meeting and everything. We make direction, we take measures to make sure we have the highest quality water for our citizens. And I will say, they bring plans to us. They have plans in place. I want everybody to know the Ottumwa Waterworks, not just because I'm on the board of directors. Again, I'm going to speak as a citizen, knowing what I know of the employees who work at the Ottumwa Waterworks. Everybody there has a passion for water. Everybody, we have their employees come to our meetings. I want people to know that the quality of our water, you know, some of the things we have down there are outdated, and we're having to get surveyed, and we're looking for plans to save money here and save money there. What it takes to give everybody in town good quality water is way more than you think. And they are working night and day to provide that. Remember, when there's water main breaks, when there is unquality water, they're outside when it's 105 degrees. They're outside when it's 20 below zero. They're outside at noon. They're outside at 2 a.m. I think if all of us looked in our heart and looked at what's happened, we've never been without water for more than a couple hours. They are right on it. And the people that work there are so knowledgeable and continue to educate themselves and continue to educate people like Keith and I to keep that quality of water. So like I said, they have a passion for what they do, and I'm actually proud to serve on that board and serve them. And I say serve them because they are some great people. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Ms. Bazul?
You know, I have to reiterate and agree that, you know, our water quality is something that we can be proud of in our community. I know a lot of people who drink their tap water without any issues. And, that's honestly a blessing for our community. I do think that I need to continue and build my relationship with the waterworks and continue to learn in that area and see how I can better help support them and their staff, and even learn some of those regulations that we continue to go through. That's definitely an area of interest that wouldn't come first to my mind. But truly, it is a blessing that we have clean water in our community. And so I look forward to getting some more data and information on waterworks.
Okay. We have another question from Wes. This comes from Wes Crowder. So he asked, do you think serving on the city council will be a conflict of interest with any of your current positions?
Mr. Damerville, you may begin.
Serving on the city council, it wouldn't conflict with any of my interests because, like I said, I'm a small business owner. I do spend a lot of time at my business, but I've been there for 7 years now, and I have some excellent, great employees that I can take off as long as my job is done, and I get my job done early in the week to where later on in the week I can get out of there. And my time frame is I start early in the morning and I'm off at 3 o'clock every afternoon. But like I said, I can leave early during the day if I have to. I can leave the store pretty much any time of the day, and there would be absolutely no conflict of interest.
Mr. Hoffman?
Well, and I'd like to understand what he meant about conflict of interest. I'm going to address what I think he meant. As for me, I'm sure Keith would say the same thing. If I was elected to city council, I would have to step off of the water board because, of course, that would be a conflict of interest and not a position I would want to put myself in or the people in. Nothing else I do in my life is a conflict of interest. Again, I believe to be a good city council member, you have to first be a good citizen. So you would have to personally take those conflicts out of your life and take responsibility for what you're doing. So, I mean, if that's what he meant by conflict of interest, and if you want to answer it the other way, as far as time, I understand, and that being a city council member is not a once a week, twice a week job. I understand that it's a full-time job. You have to be approachable. You get calls in the middle of the night. You have to deal with things all the time. I understand. And I can put in the time. I don't mind putting in the time. I want to put in the time, or I wouldn't be sitting in the seat right here. If I didn't want to put in the time and I didn't care about the city, believe me, there's other things I could do. I chose to run. I chose to sit here. I know what I'm getting into, and I understand the conflicts of interest I would have to drop, and I understand the time commitment. So, Wes, I hope that answers your question, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ms. Bosu?
As someone who's already a very active leader in the community, I would hope that we all have things that we would, be transparent about and recuse ourselves from when it comes to voting in certain issues, because the goal is that we are already active community members. We already are involved in things, and it's very important to be transparent with those things, especially with the community. But also to be using those experiences and the knowledge that we have from those things to keep us informed and to help us better lead our community. It's so important to find different avenues where you can invest in your community through different commissions and boards and celebrations. That's what brings our community together. Those are the small groups of people that help lead our community and push us forward into progress and keep us running smoothly. I know we're running for city council, and it's an important position and it carries a lot of weight, but those smaller groups of people, those boards and commissions, they're truly what do a lot of the footwork for our community. And I would hope that we would already be involved with some of those things and use that knowledge to keep us informed as we make decisions for Ottumwa. Thank you.
Mr. Cavadis?
Well, I think it's very important that anyone who would accept a position on city council understand that it's their obligation to show up for meetings, show up for work sessions, understand what's going on in the community. They have to understand that they are an intricate part of a business, and the city of Ottumwa is a big business. And it takes quite a bit of effort and time to produce that effort for the city. So if you're not willing to do that, you need to step down and do something else. It's important that we look hard at what we're doing and what we can do to facilitate our community. Listening to the people, talking with other members of this council and other councils. We move around, we go to meetings, find out what is happening in somebody else's community. It's very important that we work at one job only. Now, I have to admit, a recent thing raised in my resume, my wife asked me to wash all the windows in our house. And I was obligated to do that, particularly if I wanted to stay. So, and I did. But other than that, I am retired. I have nothing else to do except help work with the council to operate this city. Thank you.
Okay, our next question comes from Brenda. I believe it's Kumart, and please, I apologize if I got your name wrong. So what do you see as the reason Ottumwa is seeing an increase in the homeless population?
Okay, we will begin with Mr. Hoffman.
Actually, I have been researching that in some depth, and there is a growing homeless problem in Ottumwa. There, unfortunately, is no easy answer to help that other than we want to make sure we have resources available and we can create resources where we can, because we want to take care of everybody. We don't, man, this is really hard. We don't want people living outside. I mean, not because, and I don't mean because, oh, you don't want people to come to Ottumwa and see homeless people. That has nothing to do with it. I just don't want anybody to have to sleep outside. I don't want anybody to have to go through that misery. If they're in Ottumwa, they're still Ottumwans, and we still need to take care of them. I understand that it's hard to come up with resources for homeless people. And the best answer I can give you is I'm still researching of what's available, what we can do. I mean, there are some people in this community that are making great strides with a women's shelter, and we do have a lot of homeless men. And unfortunately, 80% of the homeless are men. So I think we do need to have resources to get them back on their feet. I think and those resources don't have to cost $1 billion. There are enough volunteers in the community. There's enough resources right here in the community that we could help take care of them to get them back up on their feet. So no, it can't be ignored. No, I don't want to fix the problem just so people don't see them, because I care about them as people. I care about them as Ottumwans. It's just very unfortunate. It's a hard answer, and I apologize. I don't have a better one. Like I said, I have researched it, and I am in the process of researching for anything outside that could help, any grants, anything, any help. I've even talked to people who would volunteer to help. So I got more to say on that if anyone wants to talk to me afterwards. Thanks.
Ms. Basu?
In my work that I've done with housing reform, I have met so many families who are on the verge of homelessness. We have so many families here that are living in generational homes, homes that have been in their family with their grandparents and their great-grandparents. We have a very old community, and I think a lot of our families our people in our community that are becoming homeless are coming from situations like that. They're living in their homes. They're trying to raise their families, and it's hard. It's hard today. I understand the issues of young families in the world today, and I think if we can support some of our social services and first resources, that we can get people the help that we need. Our mental health is a huge aspect to the homelessness, and that goes into some of the drug use that we're seeing in our community. I grew up as part of the child welfare system in the foster care and being adopted. And, I can understand some of those struggles of children coming out of those situations and how hard it is to acclimate to society. And if we can support those social services and support our school district to help people when they're young, we can help them have a better, brighter future, and hopefully reduce, the homeless population that continues to grow, but then again, invest in our social services and our first resources to help combat the homeless that we already have. So thank you.
Mr. Cavanis?
Well, I think Ottumwa has probably less homeless than many other communities around, but I'm sure we do have some homeless. I don't see them sleeping on the streets. I don't see them sleeping in alleys, but then I don't patrol the streets and the alleys all the time. So there's a possibility. I think the main thing is those people need to try to take a step up. If there is employment that they can do, they should make an effort to do that. If there is not, they need to see the nearest church or Christian association that can help give them a hand up and help them become more stable in their livelihood here in Ottumwa. It's important that we protect all people in our community, not just a few. So we have to be careful of who we're protecting, but we also have to be careful to protect all. Thank you.
Mr. Damberville?
With the whole homeless thing is I see it every day with some of my customers. We have a problem in this country with opioids, meth, and people falling on hard times. Two of my employees are previous meth addicts that are recovering addicts. I was told by one of my previous employees that was my assistant to never hire them. And I did hire them, and I took a chance on them, and they have become two of my best employees. And that's one of the biggest problems is that, and you see it all over the country. You watch the news, you watch social media and stuff like that. We're not as bad as other places in this country. I mean, you see people camping in tents, camping in campers along the sides of roads. It's drugs. I mean, and if you're ever around town, I've been at one of my rental properties late at night, and you see some of the backpacks and bicycles going around town and everything. And some of them you can help, some of them you can't. I've tried to help some, but that's one of the major problems is drugs. I mean, and they just need help. And one way or another, somebody's got to help them. And I did with those two employees. And like I said, they're two of my best employees that I've ever had.
Thank you.
Okay, the next question comes from Katie Howard. She says, do you think Ottumwa should have a 5-year plan with annual reports to the public? And how would this process work?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand.
Oh, should Ottumwa have a 5-year plan with reports to the public?
Ms. Bosu, you will begin.
I definitely think it's important to put a plan into place in order to be more transparent with our annual reports. I think as we look at staffing more in the city on how to market to the city and how to get our public relations officer, that's what I was looking for, as we hire them. And I think that would be, one of the first things that they can look into is how can we get information to our community? I mentioned before, not only being transparent, but being understandable, because you can throw numbers and data at the community all you want, but if you don't put it in a way that's understandable, you still have a community that's not informed. So I definitely think we should put a plan in place to be more transparent and more understandable to our community members. Thank you.
Mr. Cavanis?
Thank you. I believe when I was on council previously, we had 5-year plans. I think the current council is now working on a 20-year plan, and that's wonderful, long range. But we've got to work on the short range as well. So I don't know how often they review this publication. It's open to the public. You can come here and ask for a copy. I believe that's right, isn't it, Mr. Mayor? They can get a copy of this anytime they want it. Then we should be reviewing as a council at least once a year all of our findings in these plans, and we should be meeting with the public so they can sit in and contribute, ask questions, give us answers, and know what our thinking is with this plan. So a 20-year plan is great. I think we need a 5-year plan out of this 20 years to help us pursue the more current events.
Mr. Cavanis, is that available to the public? Do you want to hold it up so that it's viewable on the
sure.
camera? Is this the 20-year?
This is the 20-year plan. Right.
Thank you.
This was instigated August of 2020, and it's indicated that it's a 20-year plan.
Thank you. Mr. Damerville?
Yes, we should have a 5-year plan. We should have 1-year plans, and we should report to the citizens what's going on in our community, but also citizens need to be involved with the community. Also, city council meetings, this forum right here, they're all open to the public. I'm pretty sure county supervisor meetings are open to the public. The Waterworks Board meetings are open to the public. I mean, people get mad over things that they don't know about because they don't get involved and say, come to a meeting, or even watch a city council meeting on YouTube like people are watching us here tonight. You know, if you want to know what's going on, you have to get involved also. And I do that. I either sit at home, and on the evenings that I can't make it to a city council meeting, I'll watch it at home. My fiance and I have drove to Des Moines because I've had to go get liquor in Des Moines, and we were driving on the way back, and the city council meeting had already started, and she put the city council meeting on her phone driving back, and I listened to it as we were coming back instead of listening to the radio. You know, people will spend more time on social media that isn't important than being involved with their community and watching a city council meeting or any other meeting that's open to the public. So yeah, we need to have plans, but the community needs to become more involved and not get mad when they aren't informed about something, because you need to inform yourself too. You need to educate yourself and do the research yourself too. So.
Mr. Hoffman?
Well, the city council actually, I want to say, it works for the people. The city council facilitates the well-being of its citizens who actually run the city. Should there be plans? Yeah, it doesn't matter if the plan's 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, 20 year. Who cares how many years it is? The point is the best ideas come from the citizens. The length of the plan, sure, we want to grow Ottumwa, so we want a vision. It should be reviewed often. That plan may have to be changed sometimes. Plan may have to be changed on the fly. New information may present itself. New things may happen to the city. The problem is I don't believe it's the citizens being lazy. I don't believe it's the citizens keeping themselves uninformed. I believe we could all do a better job of engaging the community. That's the key. How can you engage the community to come want those details? Sharing details, even through social media, or sharing details with people or going to different groups and talking to them. You have to share those details. You can get people interested in those details. You engage the community. You involve them in the plan. You empower people. You don't make a plan and say, here's the plan. If you want to engage people and you want them to be informed, involve them. Involve everybody. That's where your best ideas are coming from. Even the people sitting up here today had an idea. We were all citizens. We had an idea. We had a plan. We want to share. We want to engage the community, and that's what it's going to take.
Okay, Mary Gaskill asks about tiny homes, and if developing tiny homes would be a possibility that would allow disabled and elderly and others to be able to afford homes.
Mr. Cavanis, you may begin.
Okay, again, I have to ask for what type of homes is she thinking about rehabilitating?
Oh, building tiny homes? That would-
Tiny homes.
Yeah, so smaller homes that would be more affordable to elderly, disabled, and others? Would that be a possibility here?
I don't know if that's a possibility. I don't know very many people that live in or could live in a tiny home, but I'm sure there are some. I think that again, the vision comes back, what does it cost? How much could we afford to help build and then sell or rent those properties to people who are short on finances? I don't know what that is. So I'm thinking right now, maybe renovating some of our homes that we have existing, maybe not tiny homes, but some of the homes that we have, with the permission, of course, of the owners, to come in and take a look at what could be done and should be done. And perhaps they could rent a part of it or the whole building, whatever. I think that's more logical than trying to facilitate tiny homes. I live in not a very tiny home, but I don't see how I could possibly put all my junk in one tiny home and live in it. Thank you.
Mr. Damerville?
Tiny homes. Yeah, I love the idea of tiny homes. If there was a tiny homes community inside our community in certain areas, I could see tiny homes. My only problem with tiny homes is that I'm not saying all of them, but some of them and the majority of them are built to move. We don't want to have a tiny home community or anything like that to where the homes can just be picked up and moved and travel down the road. Because some people build them on trailers and just whatever they can build them on, they can pull them behind a vehicle. Well, if we're going to have tiny homes and a community of tiny homes that is affordable to people, which is great because I don't know how some people pay their rent. You know, it's ridiculous on some of the rent that I see out there when my house payment is less than rent. But that's another subject. But I wouldn't approve of tiny homes that can be moved because all that does is create spots in a community like a mobile home court to where we have a bunch of open spots in that area to where, you know, have tiny homes if they want to purchase them or have them where they're available to rent, just like rentals, but they just can't move them around and create empty holes. That's my view on it.
Okay. Mr. Hoffman?
Actually, to go back to an earlier question just for a second, when we were talking about homeless, that is one of the things I was researching is tiny homes. And I did look at the effectiveness of tiny homes in smaller communities versus larger communities, medium-sized communities. So the actual question was, would it benefit special needs people for cost and convenience? So I would actually support that idea and finding resources for a tiny home community. There, of course, would have to be regulations on how they're built, and there would have to be housing regulations. I mean, that just like any other home. However, when you look at convenience, I think a lot of people in their head got a tiny home is like you go in a tiny little front door, you got one room, and got to go up a ladder and sleep like you see on TV. That's not what a tiny home is. A tiny home could have one room, one small bedroom, one small bathroom, and those would be perfect. Not everybody needs a big, elegant place to live, especially when you're suffering in the place that you are living with entrance issues, exit issues. Not only that, I mean, some people prefer that small living. So yeah, I think it would benefit some people with disabilities. I even think handled the proper way, it could help shelter some of our homeless for periods of time until they're lifted on their feet, and we can train them for our workforce to be, productive citizens with their confidence back. So I do support programs like that. And you know what? I'm glad that question came up because even earlier question, those are part of the things I'm researching for like our homeless community and our people with disabilities community. So whoever asked that question, thank you.
Ms. Basu?
I think that is such a unique solution to the housing reform that we need to see in Atumwa. I've mentioned I've worked with the housing reform and revitalization and beautification of neighborhoods. I also know that the city's been putting a lot of work towards developing new housing complexes, and that, our citizens have told us that they want more single family homes. And when we look at the apartment complexes that we have now, I don't think we realize how similar a one bedroom or studio apartment is to a tiny home. But a tiny home offers all of the amenities and luxuries of owning an actual big sized house, right? Like you get land for your kids to play, and you get to, have your own little space apart from other people. But, truly people are already living in tiny homes. And I think that if we can look towards, annexing different land, like parts of land in our community, that we as a city can then look for developers that are going to build tiny single family homes, and we can set regulations on whether or not those houses can move, right? Or the quality of the houses that are being built. But I think that's a very unique solution to our housing issue. As we see, some families are combining together where they could break up and move into their own tiny homes. So yeah, thank you for that question. That's a very unique perspective that I haven't heard in my work with housing reform yet.
This comes from our mayor, Rick Johnson. He says, if you are elected to the city council, what are your top 3 goals for the city and why?
Mr. Hoffman, you may begin.
I wrote down a few things. My top 3, I actually wrote down 5 or 6. I call them my pillars of what I believe in. And, the first one, of course, we already covered is public safety, EMS. My second, I'm going to call it pillar, is communication and transparency of everything I do, everything a council would do. Downtown small business is the third thing, that I stand for. And, and I'm not ranking these in order of what's most important. Our citizens' standard of living. So, and education. So to reiterate, the top 5 things I want to stand for: public safety, communication, transparency, downtown small businesses in all of Atumwa, standard of living, quality of life, and education for all of our citizens. I want everybody to have an equal shot. I want everybody to enjoy life here. And, as we've heard tonight, and we've heard some interesting ideas, there are people that are a little bit more down on their luck than others. So I believe with my priorities and some good ideas I've heard, that we can make life better for everybody in Atumwa, and that's ultimately what we all want. Now, sometimes goals can change on the fly as new information comes or as new problems arise. So this isn't a list I'm stuck on where I couldn't veer to the side and make something important that needed to be made important. So thank you for that question.
Ms. Basu?
I think first and foremost, one of the major things that we need to focus on is our housing. We've talked a lot about it tonight, and that's because it's a large issue in our community. We're severely deficient in the amount of housing that we have for the rate that our population is growing. And we need to continue to move forward in that to provide housing for our members that are already living in our community and for new community members that are coming in. I think we also need to focus on our employment and how we are investing in organizations that are already working to train and create a larger workforce in Atumwa. I also believe that we need to continue to keep, for sure, a hard fist down on our budget, but also that we need to look at ways that we can expand our budget, especially with grants, and learning how we can put that back into our community. And then finally, including some more diverse voices into our community leadership, because as our community is growing and becoming more diverse, we need to learn how to bring those people in. Sometimes it's not enough to say that you're welcome to come. What you need to do is extend your hand and say, hey, we need your help to make these decisions. And we should truly make that a focus as our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cavanis?
I think it's important. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the question. Safety has got to be number one. If our citizens don't feel safe in this community, they're going to leave. Secondly, I think it's important for us to say and do what we can to work on the streets in our community. We need to improve them when and if we can, as much as possible. And lastly, but not least, is that we need to look at the quality of life issues in our community. We have a wonderful trail system, we have a wonderful beach, we have golf course, we have tennis courts, racquetball, and swimming in the beach, of course, swimming for adult people as well as younger people from the high school. So it's important that we work on all those features and try to accomplish as many as we can. I think that you would agree at this point, safety has to be number one, but all the other questions that come up from the citizens probably will be number two.
Mr. Damerville?
Priorities. The biggest thing about priorities is that we have to worry about priorities when it comes to the budget and everything, because we just can't do everything. But streets is probably the biggest one that everybody talks about all the time and everything. But even before I came here tonight, I had about, I don't know, an hour and a half, and I drove around town in my Jeep, just checking streets out. And we do have, and there's been a lot done with streets in this town. There has. If you go down East Main towards Casey's and all that down there, there's new streets down there. And I mean, it's not every block that has a new street, but there are new streets. But one of my other questions with streets was North Court, where we blacktopped out there. I questioned why we did it out there and why we didn't blacktop or fix Court Hill. But I'm not on the city council, so I don't know if there's infrastructure underneath there that we're waiting to do before we can do Court Hill. Daycare is another top priority, and homes in this town. I mean, we need more homes. We need more apartments for people to, live in and everything. But daycare is very important. And like I said before, we only have a first shift. We need a second and a third shift daycare, and we need dependable, affordable daycare.
Mr. Hoffman? Whoops, sorry.
I think I went. Do I
Yes,
get to go again?
I think you did. And you did well.
I wouldn't change my answer anyway.
Okay, we have another question from Brenda Curran, and I think I got your name right this time. Are you currently preparing to, how are you currently preparing to inform yourself about the different city departments so you can be ready to roll on day one?
Ms. Basu, you may begin.
Much of what I've been doing in these past couple of months is going around to people and talking with them. I have a couple individuals, particularly that I've been getting lots of information from, because there are so many working parts of a community. And like I said before, those boards and commissions truly do a lot of the legwork in our community. And so, personally, I've been going around and asking people, hey, what's going on here? What are some issues that your board or commission is facing? And how can we help you to accomplish those? And as our community continues to grow in these next 4 years, I think it's important that that work doesn't stop, that we continue to ask people, hey, what do you need from us? Because I can have all the ideas that I want, but I'm only one person. And I think it's important that we continue to collaborate, especially as our community is growing and changing, that we learn how to meet those needs of the different organizations that are already trying to do good work in our community. Thank you.
Mr. Cavanis?
I think it's important, due to the fact that I have some previous experience, that you have to go around and talk to the managers of each department, find out what's happening for them, what they need, what they're doing, what their efforts will be in the near future, and that the only way to become informed is to go to each department head and talk to them. You can't get it from a council meeting, and generally you can't get it from one person, because in my experience in my business, when something needed to be done, I usually asked the people that were doing it, how to facilitate it, how to do better. They know more about their job than anybody else, so you got to go visit them about their job.
Mr. Damerville?
With city employees, department heads and everything, in all my years of working in the beer industry and with my small business and everything, I've made a lot of friends. I know some of the people in this city from my background and everything. I've made a lot of friends with them and everything. And some of them have actually, in the past years, asked me to run for city council, but I declined in previous years, and I just finally decided to do it this year. But I have no problem sitting down and talking with people. I've been a salesman for 27 years, and I absolutely love sitting down and talking with people and finding out what we need, what's going on. And I like to be informed. And just like he said with employees, when I do own the business and everything, but I always ask my employees and get their response on, hey, should I do this or should I not do this? I want their input because, I'm not always up at the front end of the store dealing with all the customers that come into my store, but they are, and they know what's going on sometimes more in my store than I do, which that's kind of not a good thing to say as an owner, but I'm not always up front interacting with the customers all the time. They are, and they can tell me, yes, we need to do this. No, we don't need to do this. So.
Thank you. Mr. Hoffman?
Well, admittedly, when I first decided to run for council, the first thing I did to educate myself was learn that I didn't know everything. There was a lot of research I needed to do. So what I did was I started making some appointments with people I know. I sat down with the city administrator. He gave me a copy of the city's budget. I had questions about the budget. Right here, I have a copy of all the HR policies. I'm educating myself on the HR policies. I've talked to former and current council members and other elected officials in the city for inner workings of everything. I printed out different reports to familiarize myself. I've talked to people in the different departments of the city, anywhere from public works and the fire department, the police department. I've made sure I've communicated my intentions to them, right off, and I'm going to go back and continue and revisit those. However, I am in the process of studying, researching the homeless, the people with disabilities, the budget, the finances, how the city does their budget. I'm not afraid to ask questions. I'm not afraid to go to the people who know to help educate me so I can make an informed opinion and an informed decision and learn the correct way. So I actually appreciate everybody that's helped me, and shout out and thanks to them. And I just continue to learn every day. So.
Thank you. I believe we have asked most of the questions that were submitted. Some of them were duplicates and were combined. We will now go to closing statements. Each of you will have 1 minute to wrap up your candidacy for the viewers and for those present. We'll reverse the order and begin with Mr. Hoffman.
All right. So thanks. In closing, just short, if you remember anything from tonight, I want people to support me. I want you to support me because you trust me. I want you to support me because I have integrity and I'm honest and would do the right thing. Am I going to sit here and tell you would like every decision I ever made? No, that would be a lie. Nobody can say that. I want to be the candidate that you can say, man, I disagree with what he did, but I know he had all the information. I know he made the best decision for the most people. I want to be the candidate. There's a lot of people in Ottumwa that don't feel heard. I want to be that voice. I want to be the voice behind closed doors that even when you don't know what's going on, you're trusting me to make good decisions for everyone. Will you always agree? No. Will I involve my personal feelings in decisions? No. I will, when I make a decision, let's put it this way, I will always put people and community first. That will be the first step in my decision-making process, is how it affects the people, how it affects the community, and how it affects their standard of living. So I just want to be the open, honest candidate in the public that you see working for you, because that's what we do, is we serve you.
Thank you. Mr. Damerville?
I just want to thank everybody for coming, everybody watching tonight. Thank you, League of Women Voters, for holding this. I'm not making any promises on anything I can do. I'm very business-minded. I like to work with budgets. I know that with everything going on in the world today, that a lot of cities with their budgets, they're getting more and more cramped. I know with the state of Iowa, what they did, I think it was last year when they, I think it was capped the city and county budgets, where it's getting tighter and tighter for cities to operate, budget, it's a big thing. I'm not a single issue candidate. I want to help everybody out because we're one community, and I have no agenda. I just want to be here to help out the community. I love Ottumwa. I lived here all my life. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Cabanas?
Thank you for listening this evening at this forum. I'm always ready to talk about our city and listen to what people have to say and discuss possible solutions. I was a successful businessman in our community for over 40 years with Color Master and the Photoshop, which shows my fiscal credibility and something much needed in these trying times for our city. With children, grandchildren, and even great-grandchildren who live in this area, I'm concerned about their future and the future of all Ottumwa residents, regardless of their generation. I would appreciate your vote on October 10th. My slogan is Ottumwa for all generations. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Ms. Bessu?
Again, I just want to reiterate a thank you to all of you for coming here and informing yourself. I hope it's been very clear and transparent to you that I'm extremely dedicated to Ottumwa. My want for its growth is heartfelt. I've put my life's work towards investing in our community and becoming an involved community member. I love my community. I'm the prime example of the modern young person who chose to stay here and raise a family here, to have a career here, to be involved in the community here, and to invest in businesses here. And it's a privilege to be able to sit here and talk to you about the ways that we can work together in leading our community. I'm also blessed to be representing Ottumwa's diversity. Not only am I the youngest person running for this term, maybe one of the youngest people to ever run for city council in Ottumwa, but I'm also one of two women. I'm the only person of color. And I'm honored to be able to represent those groups of people in our community. It's a huge responsibility. I'm excited to hit the ground running and hear your ideas and talk with you personally on how we can continue to improve Ottumwa and make it more welcoming. So thank you again for your time tonight.
Thank you to all the candidates.
Okay, thank you everyone and for being a part of our forum. And then I'd like to remind everyone to vote on October 10. So the primary's on October 10. There will be 5 names on the primary ballot. You're going to vote for 2, and 4 of the vote getters, 4 of the 4 top vote getters will move to the general election in November. So we will be having a forum. We are planning a forum for October where we'll have both the city council candidates and school board candidates as well. So stay tuned. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Have a wonderful evening.
Travel safely to your homes.